Hello. Good morning, good afternoon. Um, I'm very happy to be here to tell you a bit about the Campbell Collaboration. My name is Vivian Welch. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Campbell Collaboration, and I'll just start off with our ambition, everything the world knows to solve vital problems in one place. We do publish our work, and I'll tell you a bit more about our journal as we go through this. So, just starting with what we do, we're actually a not-for-profit 501c registered in the US, and our aim is to promote the use of high-quality systematic reviews and also their production. Our ethos is really to reduce duplication, promote collaboration, and uh, increase transparency in the evidence base, and also keeping our reviews free to read and free to publish. And I think what we started with in 2001 is a goal to better understand what we know and what we don't know by bringing together all the relevant studies, appraising them and synthesizing them. And we started out with just 4 groups, education, crime and justice, social welfare, and methods. And we now have 11 groups across diverse social sectors that publish in our journal. The sectors we cover are the 4 that I mentioned, but also disability, aging, children, young people's well-being, knowledge translation and implementation, international development, including nutrition, climate solutions is a new group, and we have a training group. And some of the types of reviews, these are just a few of the high impact reviews we've published recently in the past couple of years to show the breadth of what we do. This is a review on communication skills for improving abilities of student social workers. We also publish in Crime and Justice. This is a high impact, highly cited review on police stops to reduce crime. And another recent review is on intergenerational interventions. We actually have a suite of reviews. This is a map, an evidence and gap map, but we also have reviews on effects for younger and older people. And the last example I want to share is one of flipped classrooms as a tool for undergraduate health professional education. Sometimes when people think about Campbell, they think about primary and high school education, primary and secondary education, but we actually cover all types of education, including health professions. So what is our philosophy is one of the questions Neil asked me to answer. I think underlying our philosophy and our raison d'etre is that good intentions are not enough, as a famous quote from Ian Chalmers. And we often use an example of a review that was the first review published with Campbell on Scared Straight. But this, I wanted to give you a more recent review and actually tried hard to find an example of a photo that was not did not infer the gender of the officer. And this review on body-worn cameras actually found there were no clear or consistent effects on officer or citizen behavior. But the review itself identifies areas where we need more evidence to support their use. And principles of the Campbell Collaboration are transparency, justifying methods, and using a priori protocols, quality through our editorial process, but also post-editorial process. We audit our work to assess what we can do better. And open science, we've committed to expecting data sharing and would like to move to eventual requiring data sharing, and just assessed our statements, and over 85% of our articles have a data availability statement. Okay, third question, how do we keep our methods up to date? Because our methods for systematic reviews are evolving, as all of you know. So one thing we do is encourage people to update guidance, and we've recently updated our guidance for searching and also our methodological standards. We're also involved in methods projects like the Destiny project, and I'll tell you a bit more about that as an exemplar. Another working group that's being set up by members of Campbell is a working group on the use of impact evaluations in evidence synthesis. And a last example is a group called Navigate on scoping reviews, mapping reviews, and evidence and gap maps. So these groups are mostly open to join. Please get in touch if any of them are of interest. And just two examples. The Destiny is a project funded by Wellcome Trust to really advance AI-powered tools for living evidence synthesis, and is going to be holding a series of design meetings. The first is July 10th to 11th in Potsdam. It's an open face-to-face meeting. You're welcome to sign up, and I have the links here, and I've shared my slides as well. The aim is to evaluate the performance of digital evidence synthesis tools. As a second example, Campbell is one of the co-facilitating leads for the Evidence Synthesis Infrastructure Collaborative funded by Wellcome Trust with Cochrane and JBI. It's a global process to inform what's needed to advance living evidence synthesis, and has 5 working groups and 1 governance group. And I'd really encourage you to get involved by reading these reports and commenting on them. There's a very structured way to comment. The process is ending with a face-to-face meeting in Cape Town at the end of June. That will be an invitation-only meeting, but if you are interested in the working groups, there is still time to comment on the final reports at this website. Okay, 4th question. What is the Campbell Journal? So I probably could talk about this for a lot longer, but I know that you're having an exciting face-to-face meeting, and I don't want to bore you with too many details. Our journal is currently published by Wiley. It has a journal impact factor of 4 and is open access, CC BY, free to publish, free to read. We cover the fees of publication from other sources of funding like foundation funding. We currently have a site score of 8. The site score is based on citations to articles published in the 3 years prior. And this has been going up in the last 4 years. We're indexed in a number of databases. PubMed Central and ProQuest are the 2 that come to mind. But we're also indexed in social science databases. And what we publish are evidence synthesis, maps, reviews, and methodology research. We're quite open on methods of reviews. We publish risk factor reviews, intervention reviews, scoping reviews, and mixed methods reviews currently. But we'd love to see innovation in what's submitted to us. And we have an international editorial board and advisory board to those editors. Our authors are coming from mainly Australia, the UK, Canada, the US, but you can see that we have a number of authors from China and India, and also some in Brazil and South Africa, and we'd love to see our authors grow from around the world. So probably most important question is, how can you get involved? So we are currently a very small secretariat of about 4 FTE that consists of our CEO, myself, an operations officer, and 3 part-time managing editors. We have an international editorial board and advisory editorial board of peer referees. We also have statistical editors as part of our editorial board, and we have decision maker partners. Most of these are open for people to apply, so please do get in touch if you're interested to get involved, and I'd love to hear from you. We have about a section on the Wiley Online Library where you can find our editor competencies and other ways to get involved, but really I invite you to get in touch directly and we'll connect you. And the last, I wanted to cover a few questions I thought might be more like an FAQ, and I don't want to run through too many slides, but I often hear, how can I publish with Campbell? So publishing with Campbell is usually a three-step process. People register a title, they're accepted, and then they register a protocol with pre-planned methods. That is a way to reduce bias and reduce being driven by the data that's found. Focus on the question that's being answered, and then the review. And we do an external peer review of the protocol and the review. So that's the typical way to publish with Campbell. But the other way to publish with Campbell is what we call retrospective registration, where if you've published a protocol elsewhere, you can submit your final review to Campbell. There's of course no guarantee that it'll be accepted because it goes through the editorial process, but those are two ways to submit to Campbell. Secondly, Neil asked me to answer, what is the most important part of a systematic review? I think the most important part is getting the question right with the relevant interest holders who are going to use your systematic review to inform their decisions. And that's not an insignificant task. It could involve developing a logic model or a framework. The third question, how long should a systematic review take? I think this depends very much on your team and resources. A group out of Bond University that some of you might know, or you might have some folks from Bond in the crowd, has developed a 2-week systematic review. I encourage you to check it out. If you Google 2-week systematic review and Bond University, you should find it. And I think the more typical amount of time for a review would be 1 year, approximately, once the protocol is accepted. In our editorial process, we aim to have a turnaround of 3 weeks on editorial actions, and our current average turnaround from submission to publication is about 6 months. We'd definitely like to bring that down and are working on ways to reduce that time frame. The fourth question, why do we publish protocols? It is time intensive, and we take up a lot of editor time supporting people to do great protocols. It really goes back to what I think is the most important part, the question. The protocol is your question and your methods for addressing or answering that question. And they mitigate or prevent bias from coming into the review based on the data that you find, and help anchor your review in what you want to know from the evidence. Fifth question, how can AI assist in systematic reviews? We've just registered an AI methods group in Cochrane, Campbell, JBI, and the Collaboration for Environmental Evidence. And this methods group is tackling how to evaluate AI and how to report use of AI in almost every step of the review, from even defining the question to searching to screening to collecting data. And even there are some ways to incorporate AI in doing automated checks of submitted reviews against PRISMA reporting guidelines, for example. So I think AI is going to become more commonly used in reviews. What we need to insist on is transparency and validation of those methods. So last question, and then I'll release you to discussions, is how do you get in touch? So please feel free to write to me. That's my email, or to info@Campbell Collaboration, and Amanda will connect you with the right people or the right tools. So with that, I hope you have a very successful conference, and very much appreciate the time to speak about Campbell here.